Patrick's story, in search of life's true meaning amid hollow success. Patrick was a man whose life appeared perfect to everyone else. He owned a large home in an upscale neighborhood, drove luxurious cars, and enjoyed leisure time filled with various entertainments. To many, he was the epitome of success, a man who had achieved every dream he once held. Yet for Patrick himself, everything felt empty and meaningless. He constantly sensed that something was missing within him, something that no external possession could ever fill. From his adolescence, Patrick had struggled with numerous challenges. His parents had divorced when he was a teenager, a separation that robbed him of a sense of security and inner peace. His university years were marked by social isolation and depression, leaving him unable to find a place among his peers and friends. Eventually, Patrick resolved to focus on material success rather than on his spiritual needs. He came to believe that if he could amass wealth and possessions, he might be able to purchase happiness. After years of relentless effort, Patrick achieved his goals. He bought a grand house, acquired luxurious cars, and his life seemed to overflow with comfort and abundance. He engaged in countless relationships with different women, and his nights were consumed by parties, alcohol, and fleeting pleasures. Yet none of these successes ever brought him true happiness. In the quiet solitude of his vast home, during those lonely nights, Patrick would pace from room to room, questioning whether he was truly happy. Could all the assets and relationships he had built over the years really soothe his inner pain? He would ask himself, "What is all of this for? Am I really happy? Why do I still feel this void inside me?" Every time he looked in the mirror, he was convinced that something was deeply wrong. Despite his attempts to deceive himself with external achievements, deep down he knew he was still searching for something elusive. For Patrick, life was divided into two halves: the professional side where he was successful, and the personal side where he felt constant failure and despair. Endless affairs with women and nights spent drowning sorrows in alcohol did little to alleviate his internal struggles. No matter what he tried, he never succeeded in forging a true connection with his inner self. He seemed to have found reasons for everything except for understanding himself. Eventually, Patrick withdrew from even his closest friends. He no longer enjoyed the superficial thrills of nightlife and became repelled by any shallow interactions with others. Night after night, alone in his home, he would stare at the ceiling for hours, wondering if this was truly the life he had ever desired. These questions grew louder with each passing day. Patrick knew that if he continued down this path, he would never find happiness. Yet he was also terrified of change. At 38, the idea of reinventing his life and learning new ways of being filled him with dread. He understood all too well that the road ahead would be arduous, but deep inside he felt compelled to change. One day, overwhelmed by inner turmoil and unable to bear the weight of his unanswered questions any longer, Patrick decided to retreat to the mountains, a place far removed from the urban clamor and daily chaos, where perhaps he could experience moments of true peace and silence. His mind was cluttered with unresolved questions. Why wasn't he happy? Despite having everything, why did he still feel a profound sense of lack? He was determined to find a reason for genuine happiness. In the midst of his quest, the words of Jesus Christ, which he had always clung to, came flooding back to him. "Knock, and the door shall be opened to you." Patrick realized that he must continue searching for the true meaning of life, even if the journey was challenging. He remembered that, in his pursuit, he needed to keep knocking on the door of his heart, to seek a fresh understanding of himself and of God. With a heavy heart in the cold, echoing mountains, Patrick continued to walk, his mind filled with unanswered questions that had long been locked within him and never resolved. At that moment, an old man with steady steps and a deep, wise gaze passed by and noticed that Patrick was searching for something lost deep within his soul. The old man slowly approached and, in a gentle yet firm voice, said, "Where are you going, stranger?" Patrick, whose eyes betrayed shelves of sorrow and doubt, paused for a moment and replied in a cold, confused tone, "I'm searching for an answer, for something to fill this void inside me. but I don't know what it is I truly want." The old man smiled slightly and asked, "Who are you?" A moment of profound silence swept over the cold mountain. Then the old man continued, "I am the one who has been waiting for you, son. Perhaps you've arrived too late, but you can still take steps toward a new life. All these years, you have been at war trying to prove that you are not mistaken. You have achieved successes, yet you have never managed to forgive a part of your pain and wounds. You have always been caught up in proving your worth, but now it is time to let go. The world is nothing but a game and mere entertainment. You have been chasing endless desires that never truly satisfy." Patrick looked deeply into the old man's eyes and sighed from the core of his being. "I've always heard these words, but I never knew where to start. Perhaps it is time to knock on the door of my heart and uncover the truth." With a calm yet hopeful tone, the old man said, "Always remember, change begins with a small decision. The path of cleansing and transformation may take 6 months to a year. Along this journey, you must leave behind negative habits, distance yourself from endless revenge and the constant need to prove yourself. Keep in mind that the world and its diversions are merely a form of amusement, and the more you exhaust yourself with these unending demands, the heavier your heart becomes. Now is the time for cleansing. Your inner vision and soul must be freed from these impurities. Believe that faith can move mountains, and if you take small steps, your life will transform in an amazing way." As Patrick listened to the old man's words, a profound feeling surged within him. Perhaps this was the turning point he had awaited for so many years. He knew that change would not be easy, and that every step forward would be accompanied by new challenges and obstacles. But a spark of hope and the possibility of renewal had been ignited in his heart. With a trembling voice, Patrick said, I am ready. Ready to set aside the heavy droplets of my past and step toward a new tomorrow." The old man replied with a warm, affectionate gaze, "Then stand firm. Knock on the door of your heart. Let the light of cleansing flow from within you. Change is on the way, and every step you take moves you closer to the freedom of truth and happiness." In that dark, silent moment, amidst the sound of the wind and the whispers of nature, Patrick and the old man shared a deep, soulful look, as if time and space had converged for a profound spiritual dialogue. From that point on, the journey would be long and filled with practical exercises to free himself from the past and cultivate new positive habits. A path that might take 6 months to a year, but ultimately would guide Patrick to a fresh and fulfilling life.